In this lecture, I will be talking about the studies revealed, and I want the people to understand and inform themselves about surgical approaches to hip impingements and FAIs and all chronic hip pain. And there's articles, research, the science behind FAIs supports a non-surgical approach. So if I have not read the studies, or there's a lot to get into, so I want the people to understand that it's not all hopeless and it's, the easy way out of this. So there's a lot to get into, but I'm going to try my best. I couldn't memorize all the studies, so I had to write everything down. But hopefully you might take something out of this. It's really hard to find studies. It took me months to find all these studies. And hopefully you get a better idea. And it's really just pretty much doctors and researchers over the years finding out it's not all bad. It's not all hopeless to have a, you don't want to get into surgery. You don't want people, because I've come across people who had surgery and still have not fixed their problem, But I'll talk about it right here. So the theory behind hip impingement, which is also known as femoral acetabular impingement as a bone problem, did not undergo serious scrutiny until the last 5 years. So this stuff is recent. So it will take years for new research and acknowledge and then filter out the medical professionals. In the meantime, you can educate yourself by browsing a list of studies which the studies I will provide and link them below, that critically examine the hip impingements as a bone problem. But you see that recent research into the claim that bone causes hip problems are very clear, but bones are not the problem. So this is what I've been through too, multiple scans, different interpretations. I've done heaps of, it's crazy. I come across a lot of people with the same issue too. Study after study shows that there have been no relationship between having the alleged FAI morphology and any symptoms. That means that the shape of your bones is not the primary problem. So this undermines the entire bony theory of hip impingements. I quote, "Bones do not cause FAI pain," unquote. But you've been told by doctors or even physical therapists that you have FAI, specialists even. The theory is that the shapes of your bone is causing you hip pain and the range of motion issues. They'll always often make this claim, although there is a large body of strong evidence that the bone shapes do not have any relationship to hip pain or range of motion issues. So, in plain layman's terms, that the research shows that the bone shapes are not the reason that the hips hurt. I will provide studies for that. So my question is to you, is there any evidence to support this claim and related to hip pain? But there are a list of studies you'll find in this article provides really strong evidence that signs of hip impingement in X-rays and MRIs is very common in the asymptomatic population. So people can have bony spurs, all sorts of hip impingement, and not have pain. So it's therefore highly unlikely that bones alone are responsible for symptoms of hip pain and movement problems. I'll provide that link for you. In this study, they found that cam deformity was common and completely unrelated to the development of hip pain and arthritis. And they found that one type of bone, or one cam type, bones in approximate 17% of men, more prevalent in men than women, 4% of women. In addition, and I quote, "The distribution of cam deformity was unaltered in subjects with normal joint space, width, or other features of hip joint degeneration. We found no significant association of self-reported hip pain. It is far from uncommon deformity in subjects with no apparent evidence of hip joint osteoarthritis." So what it basically means, in layman's terms, it means that the deformity had nothing to do with joint space problems. It had nothing to do with hip pain and nothing to do with arthritis of the hip. And the authors go on in the same study, and I quote, "We found no significant correlation to hip pain or groin pain, nor did we find any significant relationship between hip dysplasia and cam deformity or between radiological evidence of hip joint osteoarthritis or cam deformity." But what they found is that hip and groin pain aren't even correlated with hip impingement cam bone shapes. Normally you would find a correlation and causation from hip impingement, but in this case they couldn't find any correlation. What that means is that cam type bone shape seems to be irrelevant in the development of pain and arthritis. I'll talk about in the next video.